now been joined by Denny Hamlin, driver number 11, Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. We will go ahead and open for questions. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and we will get to as many as we can in the time that we have. And who would like to kick us off? All right, we'll start with Bob.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. Is it difficult not to think about the 10 playoff points you lost because of the engine going into a weekend like this?
The 14?
No, the 10 points.
It's 14.
Was it 14?
Regular season points as well.
All right, so 14 points.
Yeah.
So you're still thinking about it? I mean, or do you not think about it? Or
yeah, it's certainly a factor, especially at this point. But nothing you can do about it. You have to race from where the ball lies, and so we got to go here and win. So that's what we'll try to do.
All right, our next question, we'll go to Al.
Yeah, Al Pierce from Auto Week. Tomorrow, do you want to know pretty much all day long where you stand? Do you want somebody telling you that you're above, you're below, you need a point, you don't need a point? Do you care about that? No,
not really, especially kind of in the spot that we're in. I think that it's all straightforward, right? I don't think that, unless someone stubs their toe, I just don't think that there's an opportunity to gain that many points. I mean, there is, right? Certainly some strategies can get flipped on restarts, things like that. So you just never know. But, for the last, handful of races, I've not wanted to know anything about the points. Just let me try to get the best finish that I can, and that's what we'll do this week.
Thank you.
All right, if I get a microphone here, Jermaine.
Denny Hamlin, Jermaine Farrell, WFXR in Roanoke. I got to ask you, is this sort of an ownership question? When you look at the fact, just the growth of 2311 Racing, you're part of that, and seeing one of your drivers actually in the championship four, how neat is it just to see the growth of that, even though you're battling for a playoff spot in the championship four yourself, but to see your team be where they are now has been great over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and, from, the standpoint of kind of where we're at, and, this is the fourth year for the 23 car. It's the third year for the 45 car. It's a fantastic accomplishment by them to be in the position that they are, and certainly I'm very proud of the effort that I put into to that team to help get it where it's at. So it's certainly gratifying, and certainly was more of a long-term play for me. To be part of the sport well after I'm done driving, and still have the competitive juices flowing on how can I feel competitive watching a NASCAR race on Sunday, and that's rooting on the team that I own. But yeah, I'm still a fan of theirs even on Sundays. If I don't get a win, I'm certainly rooting for them. And it's awesome to see that they're going to be racing for a championship, and I think having a great shot at it.
All right, we're going to go to Davey Siegel here, and then if I can get a microphone to Matt Weaver in the back.
Davey Siegel with Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Bristol was what it was with the tires. How do you expect them to react this weekend, and given what you're going to have on track today, do you think that you can take anything you learn and feel today to tomorrow?
Yeah, I do. I think certainly with all the cars on track today, and especially for an extended period of time, I think the track will get rubbered in very similar to what it will be tomorrow. So I do think that it will be a valuable practice session from that standpoint. That something that usually you're trying to offset. Well, here we are Saturday morning. There's not as much rubber on the track. Conditions will be a little different tomorrow. But I think overall this is going to be about the best 45 minutes straight that we can have to draw conclusions. But typically what happens in extended practices like this, the field just gets closer together. It usually starts out pretty dispersed, and then everyone migrates to essentially the same speed. So you better qualify well.
You've been involved in some frantic finishes here in the past. Last night in the truck race we had one as well. What did you think of that, and has the line moved at all in your mind in terms of what's acceptable and what's not at the end of races here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought certainly the 17 did a great job getting himself in position to win, but the 19 didn't want to give up the win. And sometimes you play that game of you want to win, but you don't want to have anyone drive you hard the following week to try to win a championship. But you can't fault them for for feeling that the win in that given moment was the most important thing. And certainly from what we've seen in the past, I thought it was relatively tame compared to, we've seen some crashes, really, right? And he certainly moved the guy out of the way, didn't give him a chance to make the corner, but that was a decision that he made, and he probably feels okay with it.
All right, our next question will go to Matt, and then we'll come up front to Lee. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt Weaver, Sports Night. Kind of following up on both of Davey's questions. With what happened last night, but also with an eye towards Wilkesboro and the All-Star race, Ricky and Kyle, do we have an environment that's kind of unfair to a driver if you feel victimized, in the sense that if you're Taylor and you feel wronged, you can't go punch them because NASCAR will fine you. You can't wreck them because that's frowned upon too. So, do drivers have any real recourse to say, hey, that's not acceptable, I'm not going to tolerate that?
Yeah, it's certainly a balance, right? I'm probably the worst person you can ask for that because I retaliated and got penalized. So it's a self-policing sport until it's not. And so it's very difficult to know when is the right time, because you would think you could just do it out on the racetrack, and it's that those words, self-policing, has been used for decades and decades and still used today. NASCAR never wants to get in the middle of officiating contact, although they do at times, but then you open yourself up to what's too blatant, and that's a very murky line.
And then on the tire situation, this is the softest tire that Goodyear's ever brought in the next-gen era. And there's still some concern that this might not be enough, that the rubber will fill up the pores, and it's just going to be what we've had the last couple of years. If this is not the answer, what is the logical next step, given that it's not going to be horsepower, we're not doing aero anymore, so then what can we do if it's not tires?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Short of, again, given the horsepower back that the cars had just a couple of years ago, that'd be a good first step. But I don't know. I think Goodyear had a softer version than this, but they said that they couldn't manufacture it very well in their facilities. And again, their racing manufacturing facility is far different than their street tire manufacturing facility. So, certainly maybe need to explore kind of how we can make that process better.
All right, Lee. Get a microphone right here to Lee.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. How long did it take you to get over Sunday night, and did it hurt as bad as it did at Phoenix in 2010?
Yeah, I guess it felt somewhat similar, but in the moment, truthfully, when you said what happened last week, for 5 seconds I forgot about last week. Truthfully, I feel as though, like last year, I just kind of let it linger throughout the whole week. It just had me down. I turned the page pretty quickly after a race because I know I can't change that result as much as I really, really want to. Now I'll learn from it. Certainly, feel like replaying things. What can I do differently? I'll always be able to do that. But I've at some point of the week, and usually kind of it's Monday evening, Tuesday for me, where turn the page and I'm just done with the last week, and I have to focus on the next task at hand to get me to the goal I want.
Has that come with maturity, that you've been able to flip the page almost that effortlessly, where you have so much stuff on your plate right now that you have to attend to that, and you really just don't have time to dwell on the negative?
Yeah, that's probably factual in the sense that there's just more going on off the racetrack and running the race team, and the processes in which me and Chris have preparing for races. All that is so different than what it used to be that it makes it harder to dwell on something, and certainly way less productive to do that.
All right, I'm going to go Jordan Gluck, Dustin Kelly. We only have about 6 minutes left, guys.
Jordan Bianchi.
Fab Five.
Something like that. Quite the opposite. Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. What has MJ brought to the team in terms of that you can actually pinpoint and say he's made us better here as an organization?
I think that there's been kind of one specific competition meeting that he said he wanted to participate in, and he listened to it, and then at the end he gave his opinion on what he heard, and he didn't like what he heard, and he gave certainly some pointed remarks as to what championship teams sound like and what winning teams sound like, and how we need to change the way we're communicating and the way that we're shifting blame all over the place. That was kind of a pivotal moment for our team and our drivers to hear about taking responsibility for each person's shortcomings and how you're going to get better. And certainly that was a big moment to shifting our team's mentality.
Can you give more specifics on that meeting, like when and what it kind of pertained to?
It was last year.
Okay.
Nope. Jordan, keep that mic, keep it rolling. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm just wondering if you can kind of fact check me on something. Listening to like Larson, it kind of sounds like it's evolved to where all of you guys that are bubble-ish points-wise aren't really looking at points. You just feel like you have to win. Like somebody's going to win, so you feel like you have to win. Where maybe a few years ago, I don't know that would have been the widespread mentality. People may have thought like, oh, I can point my way in. Like, has this evolved now to the point where we've seen it so many times where somebody wins their way in, it pulls himself off the bottom, that's everybody's just like, all right, we just have to win. We can't take our chances points-wise anymore.
A lot of it is, when you look at, how manufacturer teammates have changed the game, it becomes easier for those who are fighting for something really big to make their way to the front because they've got more teammates in play and everyone's trying to help each other out, and so it's just they find their way there. Most of it is all authentic, but also some of it is they get help, right? And so certainly you don't have to fight the same guys that you do week in, week out. So I think that you have to, and especially when you look at kind of the group that is below and even the group that's right above, it's probably your sixth best at this racetrack, and so you just have to figure that someone's gonna step up and win, and you just hope it's you, and you make sure you do everything you can to make sure that it's you.
All right, Kelly, go ahead.
Kelly, CrownRacer.com. Gabe Hart said he's chosen not to look at the number anymore of the laps you guys have led here together without winning. You've mentioned it on the podcast of the domination you've had here. I mean, do you believe like the pendulum will swing in your direction, like it has to at some point in this race?
Well, I mean, nothing from the past is guaranteed in the future, but I certainly like that. It seems like the fall race, we always, everyone brings their best, right? And certainly we've had some unfortunate circumstances at the end of the races here that have kept us out of victory lane, and that's just part of it. So certainly you hope that eventually the law of averages work themselves out, but it's like anything in data and analytics, one at bat, anything can happen, and you just never know, and so you just again, you hope you're on the good end of fortune, right? Or at least not have bad fortune. And that certainly, if we don't have bad fortune, I feel as though we can compete for a win.
All right, Dustin, go ahead.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. What is it like for you to see, I guess, what's your reaction to seeing the way Michael celebrates these wins? And I think from the outside looking in, it's easy for some people to think, hey, here's this guy who's won all these championships, but look at the reaction. Does that, when you see his reaction, does that surprise you, or have you been around him so much and you've seen him in competition in so many ways that's just Michael, or what's kind of your view of how he's really, certainly there seems to be the passion?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the racing side of it brings out more emotion and passion than I've seen, outside of his own career in sport. I mean, I've seen him on golf courses, I've seen him playing cards, things like that. I've seen all that, but nothing matches the emotion that certainly winning a NASCAR race has shown in him. And I think he's spoke quite a bit about, this fills his cup. This fills his competition cup that he has been missing for such a long time. And certainly, that's good for everyone, and certainly great for our team to be able to have Michael support them the way that he has.
All right, Denny. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Apologies we didn't get to everyone's question.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.